Hello, my name is Emmeline Tyler. I'm an avid reader and I struggle to keep house. Today's video is about this book, How to Keep House While Drowning. Before I jump in, I just want to let you know that I have COVID and I've been isolating for several days, getting cabin fevery. The physical symptoms aren't too bad, but if I seem a little bit out of it, that's why. I'm also working from my trusty notes today to try and support myself a little bit better. So I want to start out by saying that this is a groundbreaking book. It's absolutely amazing. I would recommend it to anyone who struggled to keep house, which is like most people I know. Most people aren't naturally good at it. In fact, it's because it's a bunch of skills and involves a lot of executive functioning skills, a lot of steps, and also there's heaps of social stuff being put on top of it that if you aren't good at it, that's something wrong with you. And yeah, people have a lot of shame around it, including me. So starting out on page 7, her philosophy here, she says, so how is this book different from other self-help books? For one, I don't have a philosophy, I don't have a program, I have a philosophy. You don't exist to serve your space exists to serve you. And this is really powerful. Throughout the book, she reframes how we talk about housekeeping. She has a whole section where she is like using different terminology to talk about the space. And also she's trying to she's trying to encourage the reader to unpack shame and feelings of unworthiness around their relationship to housekeeping, and also give some tips on how to build skills in this area, and even if you can't build the skills, on how to talk about yourself nicely while you're not doing the skills, or like while you're not keeping house to the standard that you want to. So she's got a list here of things to say instead. So instead of using the word chores, she uses the term care tasks. So I really like this because it's putting the focus on what the point of it is. You're not like folding your clothes and putting them away because you're serving your clothes. You're doing it to serve yourself so that your clothes are easy to find or whatever. You're not sweeping the kitchen floor to meet some standard, like you're not serving the floor. You're doing it to serve yourself so that you don't get little bits of things stuck on your feet when you walk around barefoot. So yeah, the problem I have with care tasks is it conflates childcare with housekeeping, which is a really big problem in my culture and probably most cultures. Well, maybe not most cultures, but if you're looking after children, suddenly you're in charge of also doing all of the housework. And this is not something that she deals with in this book. Not really, anyway. And so that's the problem I have with the term care tasks, is it's conflated with caring for people. And yeah, I don't think that you should have to do all of the housework because you're looking after the child, because looking after the child is its own job, or children. Yeah, so that's chores versus care tasks. Instead of cleaning, she says resetting the space, and saying stuff like, instead of saying stuff like it's so messy in here, saying this space has reached the end of its functional cycle. I love that. And what I was just saying about conflating childcare and housework, on page 50 she says this thing that really upset me first time I read it. When I became a stay-at-home mum, I signed up to make sure my family always had clean clothes, not that they never had dirty ones. Now I've reread it, like I reread this book to make the video, to make notes for the video, but yeah, I don't really know if she means that she decided that would be her job, or if she felt that it was her job because she was a stay-at-home mum. So anyway, that's just one of my bugbears. Going to page 64 in my edition. She talks a lot about having a kind inner dialogue. So she says, at the end of the day, it's really not that important whether you figure out a way to stay on top of your laundry. What's important is learning to treat yourself with compassion and have a kind inner dialogue about laundry. If you never figure it out but have less shame in your life and more joy, I'd say that's a win. So yeah, this is basically her whole philosophy, and I really love it and can definitely get on board with it. What I find difficult about this book is it seems to be like how to survive in this hyper-individualistic hellscape. So the title is How to Keep House While Drowning, but if you're drowning, shouldn't someone come and save you? There's not much talk about partners doing work. I would have loved to see a reference to fair play in here. Not that fair play is perfect, but it's a good start. And she does talk about like friends and family helping out like throughout the book in bits and pieces, and talks about community care right at the end. But I would have liked to see that earlier in the book, and a focus on how to ask for help and that sort of thing. But it's just like, it's not that there's anything wrong with the author, like that she's done anything wrong, but it more was a reflection of the culture that she's operating in, which was hella depressing. So the parts of it that I found super challenging when I first read it, which I now think could be solved by having more support and being a part of community and asking for help. So she talks about buying a 144 pack of pre-pasted toothbrushes, which I've never even heard of. Like, it's the most American thing I've ever heard of. So I assume that means toothbrushes that already have toothpaste put on them, so that you don't have to put on your own. It doesn't make any sense to me. But I'm trying to be compassionate, because she's talking about having a really hard time and needing to brush her teeth, but just couldn't get into a routine for it. And so she bought this pack and just left toothbrushes all over the house so that she could just brush her teeth at any time. I'm like, okay, cool. But did you need to do that? Like, it seemed really obvious to me that her partner could have just bought a pack of 20 or 10 reusable toothbrushes, and her partner could have just pre-pasted them and put them around the house. Like, that seemed like a really low-hanging fruit for how to get support. And the other example that I found shocking was she's like has this section of giving the reader permission to throw out that bag of clothes that you want to take to, if you want to donate. You haven't done it in 3 months, you're never going to do it, it's fine to just trash them. And I'm like, oh my God, that's terrible. But also, it's not necessary. That is something that someone in your life who cares about you could easily and lovingly would want to do for you. If you were having a hard time and you're like, this damn bag of clothes, I'm never going to take them to the op shop. I'm sure most people would have someone in their lives they can call up and say, hey, I'm having a hard time, I just need you to do this, or could you please do this one thing for me? Yeah, so that was like really depressing to me. But on the other hand, her giving permission to not recycle if you're depressed was really helpful to me earlier this year, when we had a really small recycling bin and we couldn't keep on top of our recycling waste, and I ended up putting a whole bin load of recycling in the rubbish, like in the landfill bin, and it was really hard for me, but it helped having read this book. And just some random notes about the book. So on page 97 and 98, she talks about, in terms of the division of labour between partners, she has this idea of fair rest rather than dividing the work equally, dividing the rest equally. We all need the same amount of rest. And she totally smashes the fallacy of stay-at-home mums should do all the childcare and housework. Like, if you're a full-time mum, that means you should just do everything. Because she's like, even if it were the most easy job in the world, which it's not, but even if it is, what job should you have to do, like, from morning to night, from when you wake up to when you go to sleep, and then be on call overnight every single day? of the week, every week of the year, like all the time. It doesn't make any sense. So I really like that. And I'd never even really come across this idea that men whose wives stay at home just get off scot-free, like they earn the money, so they shouldn't have to do anything. I'd never really come across it until I got into Fair Play and some like online content around it. And it's like every single post has someone in the comments being like, well, why should I have to do everything? I earn the money. I pay the mortgage. I was like, oh my God, the entitlement. It's horrific. But she really destroys that argument here, and I really appreciate that. And she's also like, your partners, so like why you even, I'm trying to find where she says it. This isn't a business deal where you need to protect your interests against an adversary. It's a partnership where you care about the well-being of each other. And in the same section, when she talks about like defining rest, she says that care tasks should be divided in such a way that there is time for everyone to rest and keep the home functioning. In partnerships with children, rest times likely have to be more structured, looking more like protected times in the week where you can decide what you will do without having to get someone to cover. A situation where one partner can come and go on a whim and the other will care and assume the other will care for the children, but the other partner has to practically file HR paperwork with their spouse 3 weeks ahead of time in order to leave for an afternoon is not a partnership with fair rest. Everyone deserves a window of their week when they have time autonomy. I just thought that was amazing, hilarious, and also super depressing because it's so real for so many people. And just one more note is right at the start, she talks about this word lazy and says that laziness doesn't exist. And I thought that it was a little bit rough that she didn't cite Dr. Devon Price here, who literally wrote a viral article and then a book about this concept called Laziness Does Not Exist, or something like that. And I find it hard to believe that she's not aware of this work. But yeah, so I thought she could have cited it, but anyway, I'm citing it now, trying to make up for this lack. And yeah, amazing book. I would recommend it to anyone who's had trouble with trying to get housework done and feelings of worthiness and shame around housework. Thanks so much for watching. Please comment if you've read this book and if you have any thoughts. Thank you so much. Bye.